Kirishima is vomiting before he even knows he's awake. He feels the acidic upturn of his stomach, and the next thing he knows, he's heaving onto the sand beside him. The morning light didn't even wake him, because after he wipes his mouth with the back of his arm, he sees the sun is already high in the sky. It makes his head pound. Bakugo, he's awake. Mina's shouting hurts too. She's on her way into the river that runs into the ocean, to wash the sand and sleep from her body. He's getting water for you, hun. Thanks, Kirishima says, and promptly vomits again. He's not sure if this is worse than seasickness or not. At least then he didn't have a headache to boot. Kirishima manages to sit up, and he feels sand sticking to him in literally every crevice of his body. When he moves his head, it shakes out of his hair. He sees Bakugo walking over to him, still in the nude, but he's carrying clothes over his arm and one of the water pails from the ships in his arms. Kirishima is grateful when he hands him the ladle, but he's overcome again with nausea and turns quickly to project his stomach contents in the opposite direction of his captain. Sorry, Kirishima says weakly. He expects Bakugo to make fun of him, but he just helps him sit up and offers him the water again. He tucks Kirishima's hair behind his ear and snorts. Better or worse than seasickness? I can't tell, Kirishima says wearily. Bakugo laughs softly. You'll feel better soon. We'll wash up and then go into town. Yeah, I'm really hungry, Kirishima says. He looks at the wet spots around him. Everything in his stomach was certainly gone. He splashes his face with the remaining water, and when he stands, he feels the weakness settle into his body. He feels drained from the hangover, and his head hurts with the sun beating down on it, and his muscles are sore, like they are after Heian. Kirishima whips his head towards Bakugo, maybe a little too fast for his hungover body to agree with right away. He blinks his eyes carefully, steadying his gaze. Bakugo tilts his head, then breaks into a wide grin, knowing. You're fucking something else, Gary. Kirishima's cheeks flare up and he holds them with his hands, embarrassed. I remember, but it's foggy. The crew wasn't there, right? Like they remembered to leave. They weren't so drunk they couldn't hear you, though, Bakugo says, patting his hand. Come on, let's get that fucking sand off. Kirishima follows him to the river shore, where the tide ebbs and flows, still gentle in the quiet cove. He's furrowing his eyebrows, thinking hard. He knows they had sex, but he's afraid of what might have come out of his mouth. How drunk did you have to be to forget what you've said? Was he that kind of drunk? Did I, say anything weird? Kirishima asks, uncertain. He figures if he confessed his love, Bakugo would maybe bring it up, even to tease about it. He has a sudden drop in his stomach that has nothing to do with nausea when he considers Bakugo's affections being less than his own feelings. He pushes the feelings aside, unwilling to consider them. Bakugo thinks. He bends down, rubbing the water over his legs. Kirishima follows his example, washing the sand away. It feels good. Well, you've certainly gotten used to calling my name, Bakugo says. He washes the water over his thighs, around his dick, and Kirishima still finds himself staring at his skin. Covered with ink and pretty, and his cock hung low and thick, the whole reason Kirishima is wincing as he cleans himself with the salt water. Should I stop? Kirishima asks. Bakugo kneels into the water, and Kirishima follows suit, washing his shoulders and his arms. He runs a hand along his jaw. He needed to shave soon. He could only imagine the irritation a beard would cause with all the salt and sand around. Bakugo looks out to the horizon, peeking through the jagged rocks of the cove's entrance. No. Kirishima grins. He wants to tell Bakugo that he can call him by his first name too, but it seems too forward. It seems like it's something Bakugo would throw forth on his own time, and Kirishima is okay with that. 1 sec, Bakugo says, wading out of the water. Get your hair wet. Kirishima dips his head into the water, swishing it around. The water is warm, but it's still cool on his skin under the hot sun, and it makes him feel clean and much less hungover. He swishes the water in his mouth and spits it away. Bakugo wades back to him with a comb and a bandana tied around his arm. I'll get the sand out. Kirishima sits in the water with his back to him. The pull of the tide makes him sway, but Bakugo behind him keeps him steady. He works through the tangles as best he can. He's a little rough, but Kirishima can tell he's trying to be gentle. When he can finally get the comb through easily, he makes Kirishima hold it while he threads his fingers into his hair and sets to braiding it so it will fit easily beneath the bandana while they go into town. "It's a shame you have to cover it up," Bakugo mumbles behind him. "We could dye it with ink," Kirishima suggests, where Bakugo can't see his teasing grin. "No," Bakugo says, surprisingly serious about it. Kirishima tries to turn to look at him, but he forces his head straight again. "Even when it's wet, you can tell it's red. It's like a fine silk." Kirishima blushes deep, knowing Bakugo sees the color of his ears because he brushes one gently with the back of his fingers, chuckling. I can do your hair too," Kirishima offers when the bandana is secured tight around his head, covering his hair. "Okay," Bakugo says. He sits down in front of Kirishima, who spreads his legs around Bakugo's waist. He's distracted again by the intricate tattoos that spread over his skin. This one a massive piece, a large ship, its sails rising up, their beams pointed, the tallest ones gracing the back of his neck in thin lines. The ink bumps over his welted scars, but Kirishima still thinks it's beautiful. He traces his fingers over them, gentle, watching as the water ripples over his skin, healed now. He remembers Mina's words over and over again. He can't blame Bakugo for not talking about it much. She said stuff like that. No kid should go through it. Doesn't matter who they are. Kirishima finds himself pressing his lips to the base of his neck, a shadow of a memory of last night slipping through his mind. He doesn't know how to apologize. The guilt not rightfully placed in his heart, but he feels it anyways, seeing the blatant physical permeance of his captain's past. He can't imagine the toll it's taken also on his mind. He stays quiet and kisses him again, then sets to working the knots out of Bakugo's hair. It's hard, with the little forgotten braids and beads, and his comb catches in them more than once. "It's getting long," Kirishima notes. He's being gentle. He'd done this with Aiko enough times to know how to handle the tougher tangles. "Might cut it soon," Bakugo says. "Anyways, I worked out the map this morning. I'll get it on my arm today." "Can I come?" Kirishima asks. "I want to see." "You want one?" Bakugo asks. Kirishima wonders if he can fit Bakugo's hair into a short ponytail at the base of his neck. He thinks he might be able to. I think I'll pass," Kirishima says. "Did the holes in your ears grow over?" Bakugo asks, turning around as Kirishima finishes. "Want them pierced again?" Kirishima kneads his earlobes between his fingers. "I think the holes are still there." Bakugo looks down at his chest and grabs hold of his nipples, making Kirishima blush quickly and yelp, but he's in no position to back away. "What about this, huh? Isn't that the fashion now?" Kirishima swats his hands, laughing. "What? Where'd you hear that?" "A little birdie told me," Bakugo says. "I think it looked very becoming." "No." Kirishima laughs. "That's embarrassing." Fine, Bakugo says. "Think about it." Kirishima grins. "All right, Captain." Bakugo leans in and presses a wet kiss to his mouth. "If I weren't on a tight schedule today, I'd fuck you right here in the water." Kirishima laughs, looking at him fondly. Even brushed, his hair's already starting to stick up everywhere again. "I'd let you have me." Bakugo almost growls, the sound he makes in his throat rising up. "Don't tempt me, Kirishima." Kirishima could, if he wanted, and he does want. Hair dripping onto his shoulders in the blue sky above the even bluer water. They're carefree here, in a small paradise that relaxes Kirishima's shoulders and makes him smile easily, happy. But he's not sure he can voice the dirty thoughts that comes into his mind. So he just smiles and stands with Bakugo, careful not to make the sand kick up behind them as they walk to where their clothes lay. The walk into town takes a good 40 minutes, and Kirishima is sweating hard by the time they break free of the humid forest. It's just him and Bakugo now, and even though it's the farthest thing from courtship, Kirishima can't help but feel as though they're on a date. A very strange, very specifically themed date. Kirishima digs into the fruit and meat he brought. Bakugo simply picked up his meal from the shops as he passed, but Kirishima's morals still lie a little more strictly, despite it all. Bakugo eyes the signs, and Kirishima knows he's reading them. He's improved so much, so fast. The town is dusty but bright, the buildings painted pinks and blues, and the flags and the clothes hanging about are colorful and tropic. Kirishima takes it all in happily. Children play about in the street, and women stand outside behind their verandas, fanning themselves as they chat or sell goods from their porch steps. Kirishima catches the eye of a lady in blue, and he smiles at her easily, surprised when she winks back. "You're quite the charmer," Bakugo says after Kirishima gives her an embarrassed wave. He laughs lightly. "Is that how you wooed your fiancé?" "To be honest, Captain, I'm not quite sure she's my fiancé anymore," Kirishima says. If his fleet has already returned to Iowa, then he's not sure what his father has told his mother and sister, or everyone else. Was he dead to them? He frowns. Bakugo clicks his tongue. "I didn't mean to make you all sad and shit. I was just fucking around." Kirishima smiles again, quick. "No, it's not your fault, Captain. Actually, I like this life much better than my old one." "You're okay with trading comforts and riches for mulling around a dirty old town with a pirate?" Bakugo asks, grinning back. "Yes, especially because the pirate I'm mulling around with is quite handsome," Kirishima says, honestly. Bakugo's eyebrows lift quickly and he turns his face to hide the color sudden on his cheeks. "Oh-ho," Kirishima laughs. "Did that make you blush?" "Shut up," Bakugo mutters, and Kirishima laughs. "It did," Kirishima says, leaning in close as Bakugo pushes him away. "Pink is a good color on you, Katsuki." "Oh my god," Bakugo whispers, shoving him away, his scowl not fitting the laughter in his eyes. Kirishima smiles easily and backs off. "The fucking tattoo parlor is just up ahead. Stop being an idiot." "Aye, aye, Captain." "Didn't I say to never say that again? You aren't allowed to come anymore." "Captain," Kirishima says, following him more closely. "Stop being mean." "I'm a pirate." Bakugo snorts. He lets Kirishima follow him into the shop. The light atmosphere gets cut off when sets of eyes fall on them. Kirishima swallows hard, seeing the artwork line the walls, inked out on yellowed parchment. The men and women in the shop are covered in tattoos, eyeing over his blank skin. He doesn't belong here. His captain, however, fits right in, and they nod to him as he passes. "Ah, Captain Bakugo." A woman's voice calls out. A beaded doorway parts, and a slight woman with dark choppy hair steps through. Her arms are covered in tattoos, and so is her neck, with a thick downward arrow stopping at her collarbone. Her earlobes are stretched long with thick plugs that curve to a point, making them hang low. She grins. "It's been a while. What's it today?" Bakugo hands her a paper. He's drawn the coast he wants on his arm, but it's unlike the one the map describes. Kirishima doesn't know Bakugo's method for mixing it up, but he thinks it's amazing he can piece it together. "Continue it from here," Bakugo says. "Alright, take a seat where one's free." Bakugo walks between the seats and sits down. Kirishima takes a seat next to him, looking about. "You've been here before?" Kirishima asks, voice quiet. He feels like he shouldn't speak too loudly for some reason, as the other artists do their work. There's a lady sitting next to him painting a mermaid onto a man's arm, wiping away the blood with a rag as she goes. She shifts before Kirishima can get a good look. "Jiro did the arm," Bakugo says, holding out the one with the sea dragon twisted around, its head coming through the flowers on his shoulders to rest high on his chest. "And most of my piercings." Jiro comes back and sits on the other stool, looking at Bakugo's arm. Did she?" Kirishima flicks his eyes between Bakugo and the woman in front of him. She has her supplies balanced on her lap, and Kirishima is surprised to see that she's wearing pants, not a dress. He didn't realize before with the way they flowed around her slim hips, but the tuck of fabric between her thighs is clear as she sits. It looks nice, he thinks. The look something she might be in prison for in Iowa seemed natural here. Bakugo stares at him, grinning wide at his inability to explain himself. Did his dick too, yeah, Jiro says. Kirishima makes a sound in his throat. But Captain, she's a lady. Bakugo grins wider, but then jerks his arm from something Jiro did, hissing. Don't move. She glares up at him and looks back down to her work. Kirishima feels alarmed still at the lack of propriety Bakugo carries around him. He's not the least bit opposed to it, but he's shocked all the same. This world and the one he was raised in are starkly different. Do you want something? Jiro asks, looking to Kirishima. Her eyes are so deep they're almost purple. No, he's getting his tits pierced, Bakugo says, flashing him a toothy grin. I'm not, Kirishima says, quickly, reddening. Jiro is unaffected, though, and sets to stamping Bakugo's design into his arm. Kirishima watches curiously. If you aren't a patron, you have to leave, she says. Shop rules. Kirishima squints his eyes at Bakugo, who shrugs the shoulder Jiro isn't working with. He definitely knew that before he let Kirishima tag along. He squints harder and almost breaks into a grin at Bakugo trying his best to look innocent. Get your belly button done. Doesn't hurt as much as you think it would, Jiro suggests, eyes flitting over his torso. And you've got the body for it. Thanks, Kirishima says, and Bakugo frowns at him. He's not sure he'll ever remember to forget manners. Yeah, okay. Why not? Bakugo smirks at him. The shop is crowded with people and papers and things. Kirishima wonders how no one suffocates in the tense atmosphere, though maybe it's just him being unused to it all. I'll do you after this then, Jiro says. Kirishima continues to watch as she starts to poke a needle into Bakugo's arm, drawing pinpricks of blood that group together and stream down as she goes. I've never seen this done before. Jiro narrows her eyes. You live under a rock your whole life? Bakugo eyes him carefully. Kirishima just laughs, figuring it's best not to say anything at all. Bakugo doesn't winch much as Jiro works. He just sits with his brow furrowed, watching her hands embed the ink into his skin. She's precise and careful, and Kirishima finds himself wondering what kind of tattoo he'd ever get. He's never considered it before, so he has no ideas. He likes the roses on Bakugo's neck and thigh, though he doesn't think they'd suit him very well. He likes the ones on his knuckles too, small and minimal, more faded than the rest. He thinks of the skull and crossbones and how livid his father would be. He snorts aloud and Bakugo lifts an eyebrow at him. Sorry. Just thought of something funny. He's an idiot, Bakugo informs Jiro, who nods. Hey, Kirishima laughs. I was just thinking about getting a tattoo. I don't know what I'd choose if I ever got one. You can look at the drawings on the walls, Jiro says. Choose one of those. Kirishima looks around. They're all beautiful, and a few catch his eye, but he doesn't plan on getting one. Before he knows it, Bakugo is finished, looking it over before he pulls the sleeve down again. Alright, take your pick, Jiro says. She reaches on the desk behind him and shows him a framed collection of bars and gems, but Kirishima looks to Bakugo. What one? You're paying, Kirishima says. Bakugo looks at them. Doesn't matter. Get what you want. Kirishima nods and looks to them again. The one with 3 gems that dangle low looks pretty. He thinks it's the nicest, so he goes with that. She takes it out. Shirt up. Kirishima pulls his shirt up for her to lean in and look at the area. She takes her needle and Kirishima watches with interest as she presses it in. She's right, it doesn't hurt like he expected it to. He's more curious about it than anything. She pulls it out and quickly replaces it with the jewelry. Kirishima grins. It looks fancy, hanging there on his lower stomach. So you're a redhead under that bandana, Jiro says quietly. Kirishima tilts his head, but Bakugo knits his eyebrows together quick, and he realizes the trail of red hair from his belly button to below his pants was enough to tip off his sharp mind. Have you heard anything? Bakugo asks, voice low. Barely rumors, Jiro says. But they're there. It'll cost you for the silence. Bakugo clicks his tongue. Just business, Jiro says. She looks to Kirishima. Put your shirt down, boy. Kirishima does, quickly. She can't be that much older than him, but he knows an experience gap when he sees one. Bakugo pays her behind the beaded curtains, and Kirishima waits awkwardly in the shop as they make their deal. He nods to her when she comes out, and she looks him up and down, scrutinizing his identity as they leave. Fucking bitch, Bakugo mutters. Too smart for her own good. I don't know. She's pretty good if she can get money from you that easily, Kirishima says, looking back at the shop. Bakugo scowls at him. He shrugs. It's true. Kirishima eyes the fruit stalls they passed on the way here, wishing for another refreshing treat before they started back through the humid forest. For God's sake, just take it, Bakugo says, snatching one as they pass. Kirishima looks around and no one noticed. He takes the mango from Bakugo's hands as he stomps on ahead. Can we sword fight when we get back? Kirishima asks, biting into the stolen fruit. I think I'll beat you soon. You have one sword and I have two, mind you, Bakugo says. Yeah, but you only use one against me. That's how you fucking learn. Well, use two, and I'll learn to beat you that way. Bakugo glances back at him. If you ever beat me, it'll be by chance. But once I learn, I think we'll be pretty equal, Kirishima says. I'm not as talented as you, but you're a fast learner. Bakugo interrupts. Don't fucking talk yourself down. It'll mess you up. Kirishima didn't mean to be talking bad about himself. He was just trying to be honest. But he sees the kind intent in Bakugo's words and nods. Thank you, Captain. Shut up, Kiri, Bakugo mutters, never used to Kirishima's sincerity. Kirishima is fond of it. It's Bakugo's grumpiness that covers his shyness. He brushes heavy leaves aside as they walk the barely there trail of the forest, taking in the faint buzz of insects and rustling of the treetops so high in the sky Kirishima has to almost flip backwards to see them. Watch where you're going, Bakugo says. If you get hurt, you're the only one competent enough to help yourself. Not true, Kirishima says. Mina would come and saw my leg off, I'd be fine. Bakugo snorts. Fucking beast she is. Kirishima smiles. I'm quite fond of her. That's good, because if you weren't, it'd be hell for you, Bakugo says, and Kirishima nods in perfect understanding. Bakugo makes Kirishima spar in the sand, slipping and falling away beneath his feet as they fight. He fights him relentlessly, his energy never seeming to expend itself despite the sun beating down on them late into the evening. His sword ends up slicing shallowly through Kirishima's skin on more than one occasion, but never enough to make a lasting mark. When he thinks he can no longer lift his sword, Bakugo drops his and charges. Kirishima throws his sword aside to block him fast, and he manages to stay on his feet. He hits Bakugo hard, and Bakugo half laughs. You're getting good at this. Thanks. Bakugo hooks his leg behind his shin and trips him into the sand. Kirishima lands and closes his eyes against the burst of sand. Bakugo crashes on top of him, but he's no longer fighting, just lying there, breathing heavy. Kirishima puts his hand into Bakugo's hair and smiles. Let's get rid of the sand and get back to the ship. I don't care what you do, but I'd rather not sleep on the beach again tonight, Bakugo says. Fucking irritating. Kirishima laughs and Bakugo sighs before standing. Kirishima gets up too, stretching his arms. I'll race you to the water, Bakugo says, just as he kicks off running. Kirishima yells, running after him. He catches up, but Bakugo's step is longer, and he splashes into the sea just before him. Kirishima topples into him purposefully, making them both fall. The waves are stronger than they were this morning, and they pull Kirishima out further into the ocean than he's comfortable with. He laughs and struggles to hold on to Bakugo. You pushed me down and now you need me, Bakugo says, laughing, but he holds Kirishima fast. You too tired to try swimming again? Yeah, Kirishima sighs. but I'll try anyways. Alright, Bakugo says, and he holds just to Kirishima's hands, helping him float. They practice kicking and floating until the sun finally tucks itself away behind the horizon, but Kirishima rarely lets go of Bakugo to try to swim on his own. The tide is strong, and Kirishima's sinking more often than he'd like. They finish in the river to dissuade the salt. Bakugo helps him up the side of the crepitus to climb the rope over the side. Kirishima is exhausted by the time his feet set on the deck. He hasn't seen the crew around lately, and he assumes they're off doing their own thing with their free time. This is kind of like a vacation for everyone, huh? Kirishima says when Bakugo joins him aboard the ship. Bakugo nods. What do you usually do? Kirishima asks. If I wasn't here. You mean if I didn't have to fucking babysit? Bakugo grins. Aw, come on. Kirishima smiles. Well, Bakugo thinks, scratching his chin. I'd probably go to a brothel for a bit. Mina and I check out some of the finer areas of town to see if there's anything worthwhile to plunder. Kirishima laughs. I've never been to a brothel. He's thought of this before. The times he and Mina disappear until nightfall. Sometimes coming back to the ship drunk and laughing, sometimes not coming back at all. It makes an anxious pit curdle in his stomach. Kirishima had no name for their relationship, and he wonders if he's being naive to even think that's what this is. He knows not his importance to Bakugo. Was he just a toy, being strung along until Bakugo got bored of him? He can't really blame Bakugo for living the way he does. It's simply a different lifestyle to that of which Kirishima is used to, and he doesn't feel as though it's his place to bring it up. For now, he thinks he should keep his easygoing thoughts to the forefront of his mind. I'm not taking you to one, Bakugo says. Why not? Kirishima asks. He pulls off his shirt and wrings it out. He follows Bakugo's lead and hangs their clothes on the ropes. I'll just get Mina to take me then. You get too much attention, Bakugo says. Oh, right, Kirishima says. This Kirishima thing was starting to get on his nerves. He really should just dye his hair and be on with it. It wasn't such a rarity, but when coupled with Bakugo, pirate captain of the dreaded Crepitus, well, it was quite the tip-off. I meant potential suitors, but yeah, your hair's a problem too. Bakugo snorts. Oh, Kirishima says, blushing quick. He's never thought of himself to be that kind of desirable before. He wasn't unattractive, but his experience with courtship and suitors was rather limited, so he didn't think about it very often. Really, Captain, it might be best if I dye it. Bakugo frowns. Shut up. I don't mind dealing with it. Soon I'll have a big enough name that no one will dare come for us because of you. Your name's already big. I'm gonna be better, though, Bakugo says, clenching his fist, grinning wide. Kiri, love, I'm gonna be the best pirate out there, ever, on all the 7 seas. Kirishima believes him. They read before they go to bed, and fall asleep without more than a few kisses misplaced in the darkness. Kirishima sleeps peacefully, Bakugo's breath tickling the back of his neck. He's being jostled, though, and the movement works his way into his dreams until he wakes up, blinking tiredly. Bakugo shouts, and it shocks Kirishima awake, and he scrambles to sit upright in the bed. Captain, Kirishima says, his eyes adjusting to the dark. He can see he's shaking. The waves make the boat creak and rock, eerie when coupled with the way Bakugo's looking at him as though he's seen a ghost. Are you awake? He breathes in shakily and slaps his hands against his face. The sound is loud in the quarter's silence. Fuck. Yeah, just fucking go back to sleep. Kirishima frowns a little. He reaches out to take Bakugo's hand, careful and gentle. You know, Captain, you can, Katsuki, you can talk to me. When Bakugo turns to him again, Kirishima thinks there are tears in his eyes. He's shocked, and it sends a sharp pang through his heart to see Bakugo's distress. Was it a nightmare? Kirishima asks. You've had them before. Bakugo is silent, and Kirishima is about to say that he doesn't have to speak if he doesn't want to, when he does talk. They keep dying, Kirishima, and I can't stop it. Kirishima blinks, not sure what he's talking about at first, but then he thinks of the names Bakugo has called out in his sleep before and pieces it together. And... Bakugo breathes deep, refusing to sound weak even in this state. Sometimes I'm back in the prison. Kirishima squeezes his hand. Hey, lay your head down in my lap. Bakugo pushes his eyebrows together at him in a tired glare. Please, Kirishima asks. It'll make you feel relaxed. Bakugo frowns, but he does as he says. Kirishima settles pillows behind his back and puts his hand in Bakugo's hair, petting and threading his fingers through softly. Who was Deku? Kirishima asks. You don't have to talk, but... Bakugo sighs. Suppose if I'm calling out another guy's name all the time, you should probably know. Kirishima snorts, finding that Bakugo is trying to lighten the mood, even if it's just for himself. We grew up together. Bakugo starts. Might was art. It's stupid, but kinda like our hero. You've heard of him. He was the best fucking pirate around. He showed us the ropes, taught us the maps, and how to read the stars and the weather. I mean, Mom helped me too, but it's lame getting help from your mom. Might was this big name. He had the map to the treasure. He started to decide his successor after he got shot. He was fine at the time, but internal injury. Kirishima lets his thumbs trail down Bakugo's jaw. The skin just beneath it is soft. He chose Deku. I fucking hated them for that. Still do, but... Bakugo frowns. They died. Kirishima thinks. He's not sure if anyone close to him has ever died. His grandparents, perhaps, but he was young. And to die so brutally, it seems, as these people close to Bakugo, Kirishima can't imagine it. Deku helped me get out of prison. Mina was there too, and Sero. But Deku fucking died. Bakugo says. And I couldn't fucking save him. Kirishima is surprised. He's not sure if he's ever heard Bakugo admit to getting any kind of help before. Bakugo, you're not... I mean, I don't know everything, but you place a lot of blame on yourself, and I don't think you should. Bad things happen, Captain, and they're out of anyone's control. You're one of the most amazing people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. If it's not too bold to say, and even you can't blame yourself for being unable to stop something as insurmountable as death, especially in such a precarious situation. It's not too bold. Bakugo mumbles. I like hearing that I'm the best. Kirishima laughs. You used an awful lot of big words just then. Bakugo says, shifting more into Kirishima. And I get what you're saying, but that doesn't mean I don't feel differently. That's okay too. Kirishima says quietly. It doesn't have to make sense, I guess, but hopefully this gets things off your chest. Bakugo grunts, but he stays in his lap like a cat, curled up and pressing into Kirishima's touch. Kirishima smiles and soon dozes off to sleep like that, still propped up on the pillows. Bakugo accidentally wakes him again, later, but it's because he's trying to lower himself onto the bed so he doesn't get a stiff neck. Kirishima settles in properly next to him, already drifting back to sleep. He somehow always smells like a hint of fire, and his body, warm, is inviting in the cooler night.